Have you ever heard of the letter that should never have come to light? A document that links two of the most powerful and controversial men on the planet, Donald Trump and the Pope. A message written in the shadows and delivered under absolute secrecy. But the question is, why? What was in it that the world could not know? Today you will understand, but first, prepare yourself to hear what few would dare to reveal. Because the content of that letter is not about politics. It speaks of spiritual power, global control, and an invisible battle between light and darkness. It all began in 2020. The world was paralyzed. While billions lived in fear and uncertainty, something happened in the silent corridors of the Vatican. Sources close by claim that an envelope from the United States was handed directly into the Pope's hands. The sender, Donald Trump. But this was not a simple diplomatic gesture. The letter did not contain only political words. It carried a warning, a spiritual alert. They say Trump had consulted religious leaders, rabbis, even scholars of biblical prophecy. The content spoke of a dark plan underway, a plan that he claimed sought to silence the voices of faith and replace the human spirit with machines, control, and silence. Passages from that letter were never officially released, but some phrases leaked through people close to the Vatican. One read, "The enemy is not in the heavens, but among us, and he wears a cassock." Another said, "If faith bows to technology, man will lose his soul." Strong words. Dangerous words. Trump insinuated that part of the church had surrendered to a secret alliance with tech leaders, disguised as philanthropists, but interested in steering the spiritual destiny of humanity. And most disturbing of all, the name Elon Musk appeared between the lines. Officially, the Vatican never commented on the letter, but days after the supposed delivery, the Pope made an enigmatic statement. He said, "Faith must walk with reason, but must never be replaced by it." To many, a simple theological reflection, but to those who knew the context, it sounded like a direct answer to Trump. The Pope seemed to say, "We do not fear the advance of technology, we fear what man does with it." And then, silence. For months, neither man touched the subject again. Yet anyone who reads the signs knows, silence, sometimes, is the highest form of shouting. After that exchange, something curious began to happen. Trump started using biblical phrases more frequently in his speeches. He spoke of spiritual battles, invisible wars, and of a God who watches from above what the powerful plot on earth. Meanwhile, the Pope convened meetings with leaders from major tech companies, calling for ethics and limits in the use of artificial intelligence. Two men, two sides, speaking about the same issue. But were they truly on opposite sides? Or did both know of something we have yet to understand? Some spiritual researchers believe that this letter marked the beginning of a split between the visible world and the invisible. On one side, political and technological power seeking to control minds. On the other, spiritual power striving to free souls. Yet the curious thing is this. Trump, even when criticized for his choices, always made a point of publicly invoking God. And the Pope, even as the supreme leader of the church, warned against the modern idolatry of science and technology. Two poles in confrontation, but with a common message. Something enormous is about to happen. Theologians and scholars say part of the letter referenced the book of Revelation, especially the passages about the mark of the beast and total control over humanity. Trump, according to these sources, believed we were heading toward that scenario, and that the Pope needed to choose a side, the side of spiritual truth, or the side of the global system. The Pope, for his part, is said to have replied calmly, "Faith does not need to choose a side of the earth. Faith belongs to heaven." And this is where the tone of the story changes. The original letter was never seen again. Some say it was archived in the Vatican secret archives where centuries-old documents sit. Many never opened. Others believe it was destroyed, because its contents could shake the faith of millions. But there are those who claim digital copies were sent to specific people, leaders who, curiously, now avoid commenting on the subject. If this letter truly existed, and every sign points to yes, what does it teach us? The answer is simple and profound. Human power is fragile before spiritual truth. and the more they try to hide the truth, the louder it cries out. Perhaps the content of the letter was not merely political, but prophetic, a warning that we are entering an era where faith and technology will collide, where God and human power will vie for people's hearts, and whoever wins will determine the future of humanity. In the end, maybe that letter was never written on paper. Maybe it exists only as a divine message, sent by invisible means. But its meaning is clear. The powerful can write history, but it is God who decides the ending. What would you do if you held a letter that could change the course of the world? Would you keep it hidden or reveal the truth no matter the cost? Leave your opinion in the comments, and remember, true power is not found on the throne nor in the crown. It lives in an awakened conscience.